As sad as it is to admit, Mindhunter's lack of familiar faces is the one thing that kept me from immediately binge watching it when it premiered on Netflix. The true crime premise and David Fincher's name caught my attention, but the mostly unknown cast would block me from starting that first episode. Unlike many shows nowadays that have the budget and clout to cast big actors on the small screen, Mindhunter showed zero concern for attracting viewers with an A-list cast. Even the names I did recognize weren't huge selling points. When I think gritty serial killer drama, I don't picture musical theater superstar Jonathan Groff. And even a hardcore David Fincher nerd like me didn't realize that Holt McCallany appeared in two of his earlier films. In our current world of streaming television, there's an overabundance of great shows to watch. A recognizable face can be the deciding factor in choosing which long-form story we want to spend our limited time with. Advertisements bank on this element of human nature where it's comfortable and easy to spend so much time with people you already know. How likely is it that you would have tuned into Billions if the two leads weren't familiar faces in the film and TV world? Personally, Boardwalk Empire and Westworld's star-studded ensembles played a big part in drawing me to those first episodes. And with anthology shows like True Detective and Fargo, the casting of movie stars seems like a fundamental part of the premise itself. By episode 1 of Mindhunter, it dawned on me that the unknown cast was one of the show's greatest assets. I fell in love with each of these actors and their wonderful, unique faces. Part of what made the show so riveting to watch was that rewarding sensation of discovering an exciting new actor. I take that feeling for granted, and I'm grateful that this show has it in spades. I have to give major props to casting directors Lorraine Mayfield and Julie Schubert, because each of these roles, from main characters to minor players, are expertly cast. They took special care to avoid hiring actors who are well known for a specific role. I'm an obsessive film and TV nerd who can name some of the most obscure character actors in the business. I know this guy's name for Christ's sake. With that said, I had no idea who the majority of these people were. This cast has many strengths, naturalistic performances, and the ability to work with David Fincher's meticulous directing style of doing multiple takes until he gets the exact delivery he's looking for. Aside from those talents, it's their faces that make them so memorable. They give you an immediate sense of the character's type. With Holden, Jonathan Groff's soft, squeaky clean face fits the young FBI agent like a glove. Holt McCallany's square jaw and gruff presence are all the qualifications he needs to play a tough G-man like Bill. He's the perfect foil to the idealistic Boy Scout Holden. We believe that someone with Anna Torv's sober face and kind eyes would have Wendy's innovative approach to criminal psychology. We see her professionalism and empathy constantly working in sync. Plus, her previous work on Fringe as an FBI agent who works out of Harvard probably didn't hurt her chances in the casting process. For the supporting cast and one-episode guest stars, all you need is one shot of their faces to identify their archetype. The strict, hard-ass boss. A meek, small-town cop who's in over his head. A clean-cut professional with an air of smug superiority. The cast reminds me of a Coen Brothers film where quirky character actors are placed in minor roles. Their distinctive look that helps them stand out is also what makes them feel like everyday, regular people. There's nothing glamorous about their appearance to distract you from the illusion that you're watching a scripted show. This casting philosophy feeds into the show's premise of tracking down killers based on their personality and behavior, creating a true crime documentary vibe. Imagine if any of these characters were played by even a prominent television actor. It would shatter the illusion. You get the feeling that Mayfield, Schubert, and Fincher wanted to steer clear of getting the "hey look it's that guy" reaction from viewers. This hardcore commitment to realism was absolutely critical when casting the interviewees. Holden and Bill are loosely based on FBI agents John E. Douglas and Robert Ressler, which I imagine allowed for some wiggle room in casting. To achieve the true crime atmosphere of this show, however, these serial killers required more careful consideration. The casting department did a phenomenal job finding actors who capture the vibe of their real life counterparts. Not only do these guys look nearly identical to their models, they fit into the overall casting philosophy of distinct but ordinary. Sure, Cameron Britton is the right height and size to play Ed Kemper, but even more crucial is his soft, friendly face. All of Kemper's contrasting features are on full display, giant and imposing, yet well groomed and amiable. Sam Strike as Monty Rissel serves as a perfect contrast to Kemper, a messy, unkempt punk kid. Happy Anderson captures the sleazy yet neighborly face of Jerry Brudos, and Jack Erdy is the embodiment of Richard Speck's Born to Raise Hell tattoo. Okay, so this sounds easy enough. To make your ensemble memorable, cast funny looking people in small roles, no big deal. The tricky part of this casting is finding talented actors capable of bringing empathy to these characters. When I was rewatching the first season with a friend, he said something that stuck with me. Every character on this show is right. You always understand where these people are coming from. They never come across as unreasonable or one-dimensional. That praise, of course, belongs to the writers for creating these fleshed out roles, but it's the actors that have to bring every dimension of those roles to life, and they do so beautifully. Holden's babyface sharply contrasts with his growing narcissism and acquired sociopathic tendencies. As he falls deeper down the rabbit hole of empathizing with monsters, he starts acting like one. The macho veteran Bill can't handle the psychological stress of these gruesome, inexplicable murders. His efforts to repress his emotions cause him to fall apart at the seams in his personal life. Wendy's stoic professionalism cracks when her point of view is challenged. She doesn't handle certain face-to-face confrontations as well as you'd think, losing her cool when things don't turn out in her favor. Shepard may come off as a one-dimensional, bureaucratic asshole at first, but he's actually doing his best to help the unit in his own way. He knows how to work within the FBI's stringent system. And as Holden starts to fly off the rails and land the unit in hot water, we sympathize with the unit chief's efforts. In a field as complex and gruesome as criminal profiling, characters like Mark and Greg seem out of their depth. They're meek and too often take people at face value, but they're in law enforcement for a reason. They each have a detective's curiosity, proving themselves useful to the team by picking up on small but essential details. How many times have you seen the scene where the young, hotshot protagonist is being debriefed by two stone-faced suits? Too many, right? That's why this reveal is so fun.
Richard Speck, what a shit stain, huh?
Read to the end. We should have kept the tape just for that.
Fascinating.
This subversion of type can also work to the reverse effect. We hear a lot about the character Frank before we see him, and he's built up as this doting husband and protective brother-in-law. When we actually see him, we're instantly turned off by his creepy face and cocky attitude. In this case, the typecasting informs you that this guy is as much of a scumbag as he appears to be. Even when a well-known actor like Lena Olin shows up, they use her sparingly. Her character, Annalise, is a callback to probably her most famous role as Sabina in the film The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Annalise appears to be living the same bohemian lifestyle as Sabina, but she's not as open-minded as she seems. She's emotionally manipulative, criticizing her partner Wendy's career choices and disguising it as concern for her well-being. But in all honesty, this show wouldn't be half as good if the every character is right approach didn't apply to the murderers. These may be irredeemable people, but the actors do a fantastic job exposing their humanity. You can see the damaged souls under the surface. You understand why these guys lashed out by taking the lives of others. The show never justifies this behavior. It instead gives us human faces to relate to. We don't solely identify with their pain and misery. It's the moments of joy and clarity that draw us in. When these lost souls talk about discovering their interests and obsessions, it surprisingly rings true. The obsessions may be horrifying, but figuring out who you are is a universal experience. And that's one of the main reasons I made this video. Obsession. Ever since I first watched Mindhunter, I've been obsessed not only with the show, but with the faces. It's hard to explain, but more so than with any other TV series, every part of this cast feels like a fully fleshed out being. Each actor brings an easy naturalism to their role without leaning into melodrama. They're distinct enough to be memorable, but ordinary enough to blend into the background. This casting approach had me so excited going into season 2. I couldn't wait to discover more new faces. Knowing that they were getting into more well known murderers like Charles Manson and David Berkowitz, I was curious to see if these unknown actors could embody these public figures. Needless to say, I wasn't disappointed.